So what's going on? How are you?
I am doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. Doing good. Trying to keep things going, keep business rolling, and continue to adapt as we get through everything and kind of get on the other half of the equation here. I think so.
Yes, we're on the up and up, right?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you being here today. This has been a very cool thing for me for the last 13, 14 weeks to be able to talk to friends, business people. And it helps me because, I'm just out of the first 5-6 years of business. And it's so fresh with starting a business and all the headaches, the fears, the headaches that you go through, all that stuff. And then I'm at that point where I can breathe, and it's like, it was well worth going through everything. So I believe you started a little bit after me, or maybe similar in 2015, 16 timeframe.
Yeah, so I graduated in 2017 from college. Okay. So
Where did you go to
pretty
school?
much started right after that. IUP.
Oh, good for you.
Indiana University
of
Pennsylvania.
So I purposely did not dive too deep into anything because I like the general conversational flow with this. And so I'm going to ask you a lot of questions and really just kind of dive into your story and everything. So obviously went to IUP. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up, in what area?
I grew up here, so the South Hills. I'm born and raised in Pittsburgh. I went to Mount Lebanon High School, so just right down the hill.
Yeah.
Different mount, but still here. Mount to mount, yeah. And then I moved up here. That's when we started connecting a little bit more, and yeah.
So when you were in Mount Washington, how long were you here for?
I was here about, I want to say, 1.5 years, 2 years.
Okay. And then right from there, you just recently moved?
I just moved again. Okay. Yep. Still in the South Hills, so I can't stay away. And we'll get into, I'm sure, the business side of things, but I opened up my shop in the South Hills as well.
Yeah,
so
good. So let's just start there, right? So you went to Indiana University of Pennsylvania, and going into college through high school, was there anything that kind of got you in the fashion world? Was there anything, did you know this is what you wanted to go,
no.
the route you wanted to do and all that stuff? Or kind of talk me through that thought process.
Yeah, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I still don't know what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty much day by day. But I would say in high school, definitely in like middle school as well, like I just love to dress up. Like I would just like to experiment with fashion, I think a little bit more than the average. I would just kind of throw these funky outfits together, and people, like, they weren't necessarily trendy outfits. They would just kind of be like a little bit off the wall. Like they're definitely eye-catching. Bold is like my term pretty much for everything. But yeah, it was just kind of like I had my own edge, and I wasn't afraid to wear things that were a little bit off the wall. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of just like picked up and eventually turned into a business.
Were you known for that in high school? Were you known for that as a kid? Like, when I grew up, I remember playing midget league football, and I needed my wristbands. I needed the shoes and socks and everything that would match each other. Is there anything that kind of correlated to your early stages in life as well?
Not really. I think it was more of a fun thing for me. Like I would just kind of like play dress up in my mom's closet, and like that was our thing. Like come over and we can dress up and make outfits, and it just kind of obviously transpired from there and turned into what it is now. But no, I mean, I would say that it was definitely always an interest of mine, but it was never like, I wouldn't say I was known for it. I think I was known more for my personality.
Yeah, no, there you go. You have a bubbly personality, so that works for you. So, okay, cool. So you went to Mount Lebanon, went to IUP. Talk me through your mindset. Talk me through, what did you go to school for? Was there something your family pushed you to do? All that stuff.
Sure. So you just mentioned family, and that was like ding ding. My family, I did come from a family of entrepreneurs. On my dad's side, at least, my dad, my uncle, both of my uncles actually, their parents all own businesses, all in the restaurant world.
Okay.
But
in Mount Lebanon or somewhere else?
So they lived in Dormont. They grew up in Dormont, but their restaurant, they had one in Dormont. They had one in Carnegie. My uncle had one in Southside, the Pittsburgh Steak Company. Shout out.
So I was just driving past there the other day, and I was looking at that was there when I was in college.
Yeah.
And I was looking at it. I was like, what was the name of this? Was it Southside Steak Company? Was it something? And I couldn't remember what the name of it was. And I think I worked there for, was it the one with the red awning?
Green
awning.
Like
yeah,
dark
right
green.
next to a parking lot.
It was the only one with an awning. That was like a whole ordeal.
Yeah, so I think I worked there, and I think I was in college for like a month or two. I can't remember why I was there or why it didn't last long, but I did work there for a little bit. That's crazy.
Well, it makes sense why you didn't last long, because look at you now.
No, for sure. Okay, cool. So family of entrepreneurial people.
Yes.
And that obviously had a big impact on your life, your future, and your decisions.
It did, yeah. I always spent time like at their restaurants. It was all in the restaurant industry, so I didn't really...
Keep talking, you're good.
Sure. I didn't really have anybody that... I can't keep talking. You threw me off.
No, you're fine.
We're going to have to cut that one right out.
You're good. Hold on one second. I'm sweating my ass. I did not know any of that about...
I want to know more about what you did at the steak company. Were you a busser, server?
I was like, I think I was like a busser or something for a brief time. I went to the gym before, so I didn't get to cool out too much. But
I went on a walk up here, so same.
that's crazy. All right. Yeah, so I think I did like I had to have been like a busser or assistant or whatever it was at there. And it was like a month or so, and that was it.
That is too funny. I couldn't work for my uncle either.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't even remember anything about it. It was one of the shortest stints I've ever had, and I don't have any idea why. So I'll have to think about it, and I'll text you and get back to you on that.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear it. But yeah, so I did come from a family of entrepreneurs. Nobody really in the retail space, all restaurant. And that's the one thing I did know. I never wanted to be anywhere around food, restaurant business, fast food, anything. Like even like my first couple jobs were all in retail. I just wanted to kind of go the opposite route of them, but obviously ended up still an entrepreneur.
Yeah, for sure. So was there any talk when you went to college that you wanted to do something, go and work for somebody, or was it always right out of the gate, hey, I wanted to jump in, I wanted to control my own destiny, essentially?
Well, I love that you said that, because I think I've always had that mindset, but I don't think I ever put two and two together until Posh came to be.
Yeah.
So I would say definitely in college I was more defiant, always kind of going against the grain, not only with fashion choices, but just in general. That was just kind of like my lifestyle.
Yeah.
So, school was I never really did well in school. Yeah. I could do well, but it was kind of one of those things like, I'd rather be doing something else.
What was it? Do you remember a grade point average or anything like that?
Oh, no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
And if I did, I wouldn't say it here.
I think in college, I always tell the story, my sophomore year was a 0.4 and a 0.6. So it wasn't a good experience for me. And that's why a lot of people that I know were in a very similar boat. So
no, it wasn't. It was a little bit, a little bit up there.
So, all right. So let's talk about that, because not a lot of people go directly into their own business, starting their own thing, and kind of having the idea to do that. So I know my thought was, well, I don't think I would be able to go right into being an entrepreneur. And I honestly didn't have any interest in it because nobody in my family was an entrepreneur. I had no guidance on that. And I think the big difference is I'm 35. How old are you?
I just turned 26 last week.
Okay, yeah. So like growing up, I think when I was in college or right before college is when Shark Tank came out. And I think that popularized a lot of things for entrepreneurs and gave people the idea that, hey, I can actually do something, or I can do my own thing. Did anything like that have influence on it, or was it more the family dynamics that you had that really pushed you through?
To be completely honest, I don't think, if I wouldn't have had the idea for Posh, I don't know that I would be where I am now. Like I wasn't seeking entrepreneurship. It just kind of like fell into my lap, essentially. I had this idea. I went home, talked it over with my uncle, formed an LLC, and like kind of just took off. Like I took some time away from it after that. So, not to jump the gun on the whole story, but I did form the LLC. It took like a year, went a whole different route into real estate, tried to get a real estate license, and I was kind of thrown off course for a little bit, but then, after a turn of events, getting fired from the real estate position that I had, I was like, wait, this was the whole point. This was the whole reason that I wanted to get this real estate job in the first place. And before I got sidetracked and thought that was it, thought that was the destiny I was following, and then it took me right back to Posh.
Yeah. So let's talk Posh.
Sure.
I follow on social media. I try to keep up with everything. It seems like you have a million different things going on within there. Mm-hmm. I think I mentioned the other day, I was messaging you or somebody about you, and the content that you do, the products that you put out, the style of everything is really, really cool, and it's very tastefully done.
Thank you.
It seems like you have a natural knack for that stuff. What was the idea? What was the concept? And where did Posh kind of start? Where did it begin? And what was your overall thought process on wanting to do that? Was there a need in something? Was there something that your experience elsewhere wasn't getting? Where did it stem from?
Okay, those were like like there was like a million questions there.
That's all right. Talk
So
through
I'll
it.
maybe answer like a couple of those.
Yeah, so I'm
You might have to remind me of what you
No, you're
even
fine.
asked.
So I throw a lot of questions because I want to get your mind going crazy. I want you to start thinking
You did.
because, well, you know, you're living it right now. So the experience really hits home to your heart, your chest, all that stuff. And it really, you get to explain your feelings to people that really can't ask those questions without going through it. So, you know, just, you know, give me your thought on the whole process of building it, starting it, and why.
For sure. So, like I said, entrepreneurship was running in my family, but it wasn't something that I was seeking. So when I had this idea, so just to give you like a little bit of the story, because it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I graduated from college, had no idea what I wanted to do. Marketing was my major, so it was like business marketing. All my classes were like math and statistics, calculus, all the things that I did not want to do. And I graduated, and I'm like, you know what? Marketing is so broad, and that I could go so many different directions with it. But my mindset was, I have to be selling something that I believe in, and that was just the only thing that kind of like was. Like that, those are the only companies that I was applying for, essentially. Companies that I either worked for prior or companies that sold products that I actually used, because I just knew in my heart like I wasn't going to be able to sell something that I didn't believe in or something that I didn't truly like feel passionate about. So that was the only thing that I did as far as applying to different jobs that none of them worked out. But after graduating, I just kind of decided to give myself a little break. I was like, you know what, like this is the only time I'm not going to be able to work. I'm living at home. I don't need to be making money necessarily, besides like fun money to like go out. So I decided to, I was already selling some clothes and things on the app Poshmark, if you've ever heard of it.
Yeah, for sure.
So I was selling like, you know, formal dresses from like sororities events and things like that, and just making like fun money. And that's really all I needed at that point, living at home after graduation. So
how did you connect with those people, right? So you're selling dresses or whatever, there's got to be a reason, a connection there. So how did you get access to the product? Was it just people that you had networking with?
Yeah, so
take me through that.
So it was pretty much the app sets it up for you. So it was kind of as simple as that. It was just you have access to their network of people looking to buy and sell clothes. So they kind of do all the legwork for you. You just kind of have to post the stuff, and you know, obviously things sell a little bit better than others, and there was like a need for certain items. So I actually took note of that, obviously, and was going to like TJ Maxx and Marshalls and buying these designer items and selling them for basically, you know, a little bit more than what I was buying them for.
So that's what the Posh app and everything was. You're selling. I thought you were taking product from other people that were friends of yours.
No,
and
essentially. I mean, at one point I was definitely doing that in college, but it was more so like just selling things that I had in my closet that I no longer needed, just because I needed some like income. So
good for you. That's really cool.
Thanks.
That's
yeah.
sweet.
So I was just kind of doing that, and I had worked at TJ Maxx in high school, so I kind of like knew how that worked, and I was like, wait, like some of the deals that you get at TJ Maxx and places like that are like outrageous. You can get like Vince Camuto, you know, all these name brands, and so I was kind of, you know, back in my mind when I would buy something, I'd be like, yeah, I can wear it once, then I can sell it for twice as what I paid for it on Poshmark, because you had access to so many more people that way, because it's a nationwide, you know, people are using that all over the country. And so I started doing that. I say that I was doing it as my full-time job, but I wasn't doing anything full-time.
Were you making good money?
I was making good money, yeah. I mean, for what I was doing, I was making good money. And I think I'm up to like 89,000 followers on that app. And at that point, I was like, maybe going to the post office 3 or 4 times a day, selling everything I had, and then rebuying it, and then selling it again, and going through all of that. And it just clicked for me one day. I printed out one of the labels, and basically it created a sense of urgency in me. So I treated it like a full-time job. So I say it was my full-time job because I treated it that way, and I'm just very customer service oriented. I feel like I'm like going a mile a minute.
No. You're fine. This is good. This is really good.
But I would treat it like my full-time job. I would immediately, the second an order came through, I'm up. I'm printing the label, I'm packaging it. I would go out of my way to like get special packaging, write a cute handwritten note every time, and ship it out that same day. So that was kind of what created the sense of urgency in me, and created the sense of urgency in Posh Local.
Who instilled that in you? Was there somebody growing up, or was there somebody, you know, was it your uncle, your dad, somebody in your family? Because you know, at the end of the day, the most important thing in a business, in my opinion, you have to have a good product, you have to have all that stuff, but customer service makes or breaks a company. And I think especially more so in our age, and where the reviews, where the access, the social media, the unveiling of every aspect of your business or your person is there, right?
For sure.
And I think that's one aspect of business that a lot of people unfortunately neglect or don't put as much prioritization in it, because it's powerful.
It's something I can't understand.
Yeah,
like how
it's really
you
wild.
could choose any other route. Like the customer is your business.
Yeah.
So anything else just really blows my mind.
So is it just, that's how you've always been?
I think that's how I've always been. My mom's in a customer service role as well. So, she kind of creates that sense of urgency. Like, I got to go. Like, my boss, she has it in a different way because she works for somebody. So it's like, my boss needs me there. Like, I can't call off. Like, I have to be there.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, well, you have stuff going on too, Mom. Like, maybe you should, take the day off. And she's like, nope, can't do it. Like, they're relying on me. I have to be there. And she's, very, very good in that way. And she's very responsible in that way. And it gives me a sense of responsibility, because kind of like I said, like I go against the grain, I go against authority, but like my customer is my authority. They keep me in check. Yeah. And because, I'm my own boss, I don't even have an employee. I don't have, anybody to answer to. They keep me in check. Yeah. Always.
Well, so when I started The Proper Knot, which came before the clothing business, it was one of those situations where I hired somebody to make a product for me, and it was taking too long from, hey, here's an order, to execution, to build, to have it done 2, 3, 4 weeks. And I knew right out of the gate, the first conversation I had with the lady, and I'm very thankful that she did help me, but I realized when I said, hey, I have 10 that I need done, and she said, I'll get them to you in 2 to 3 weeks. At that point, that there was no option for anything other than to me get involved and to do something. So it's really cool to hear you say that, because again, there's huge businesses out there that don't put the emphasis on customer service, and I think again in our world, it's so much more valuable for the longevity of a company, a brand, or a product, and it also instills trust in that business. And when you have the trust, it also allows you an opportunity to fuck up in the future too, because that happens, and every business does that. It doesn't matter the size, it doesn't matter who's involved. Every person or every business is going to make a mistake. But how do you minimize those? And then when you do make a mistake, all right, cool, I'm going to do this. I'm going to slide you an extra this, or I'm going to, hey, you know what, I fucked up. That's my fault.
Always.
What can I do to help?
Right. And being able to take ownership of that, I think is the biggest part.
Yeah, absolutely. So back to that, your customer service is on point with different things. You're creating an incredible side hustle, right? And you see the light of, hey, this is something far more down the road that only I can see right now.
Right, exactly. So where I really got the idea from, so I was doing that, and I think just knowing myself, knowing my personality, knowing that I can like be that customer service rep, while I'm doing all of these other things, just knowing that in the back of my mind, that kind of like gave me the, I guess, courage and just the fearlessness that like, I could take this and put it anywhere else. Why would I put it into the pocket of somebody else? Yeah. Essentially, you know what I mean? Knowing myself so well, knowing that any job that I've had in prior to Posh, that I give it my all, and it just, we're still jumping the gun, because I got to tell you the real story, but but just knowing that you could be working for somebody else, or you could be working for yourself. You could be making yourself that money, or you could be making somebody else that money, and really have no job security at the end of the day. Especially that's what we've all been reminded of with COVID. That was just.
And I think that's something that's opened my eyes to a lot of things. Is I don't think it comes down to how much money do you make. I think it comes down, or can you make, right? I think it comes down to how free can you be.
Right.
And
100%.
Whenever you realize the freedom that you can have in a situation where you have to work, you have to do something, you have to provide for yourself or your family or whatever it is. So if you have the option to do it under your contingency or someone else's, I have a very difficult time. Now I understand it's not meant for everybody and all that other stuff, but when you really grasp the meaning of life and the meaning of time and how valuable that is, I'm sitting here at 35 years old. It's not old, it's just not young anymore. And it's a younger experience version of life, right? And then I look at them like, okay, another 30 years of working, 35 years of working is what it essentially would be. As I've started building businesses, I don't think I'll ever not work, because I enjoy the thrill of it, and I enjoy trying to problem solve, and I enjoy trying to come up with something different or do something that people say you can't do. And I think all those really drive you in the decision making, and also allow you to get through the really shitty dark times too.
For sure. No, and I totally agree. I think that is like the biggest thing though, the freedom, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, hands down. I feel like more days than any. Like, I just feel so grateful, and like I have to shake myself sometimes. I'm like, wait a second. Like, I'm making money doing this. This is how I'm living my life. Like, people don't live like this. It's crazy to me. Like, I could never go back.
Yeah, for sure. So, all right. So you're having a lot of success, and
all right. So I'll stop you there. Well, we'll get right to it.
Let's just dive in.
The order came through. Same sort of situation. I'm running every time I see an order come through. I get an order. I print out the label. It says Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I was like, wait a second. This app, I'm usually shipping to like California, Las Vegas, anywhere in the United States. And I get this order, Pittsburgh, PA. And I was like, what? So I just put it in my maps. I'm just like curious, like how far does this person live? 5 minutes. And I was like, no way. Like, what? And I'm like, okay, she just paid for shipping through the app. She is going to expect it in, 2, 3, 4, 5, whenever they get it to her, that's when she can expect it. And I'm just thinking to myself, I'm on the way to the post office, and I'm like, I could just drive this right to her house. Like, this doesn't even make any sense to me. Like, I could just drop it right off, and she could get it within 10 minutes of ordering it, because I was that fast at that point. And obviously I didn't, because that would be super creepy. But
so you didn't?
I didn't do it. No, I took it to the post office. Come on, that would have been so weird. Like, ding dong, your order's here. And I wish I knew what she ordered. I'm gonna have to look back on the app.
Did you know the name or anything, or was it just
didn't
a random
know her?
person?
It was just Pittsburgh, and 5 minutes from me, and I was like, what? Like, that just makes no sense. I'm surprised it took as long as it did to get one of those, but it came through, and just the whole drive home, I was like, wait, that could really be something. Like, I could have just driven it to her door. Yeah. And that just like stuck in my head, and I'm like, she could have gotten it same day. She didn't have to wait for the postal service, and how packages get lost and all of that, and plus it's expensive to ship it. And it just kind of clicked for me. So the whole drive home, and I just kind of like sat on it for a couple of days. I don't think I told anybody. And then I was like bursting at the seams, and I'm like, I have to tell somebody about this. Like, this is actually gold.
That's really cool, yeah.
Like, I got to tell somebody. So I told my uncle, I was like, who can I trust? Who's not going to steal this idea? Who, understands it? And like, he embraces my crazy ideas sometimes. So I was like, I'll tell him. And he was like, yeah, that could be cool. And I was like, all right, so like, how do I start a business? And he's like, all right, well, you go on this website, pulls up PA Department of Revenue, and we formed an LLC. I think it was June 21st, 2017. Okay. So just like a month or two out of college, and just formed this LLC. Had no idea what I was doing. I think he paid for it too. So he was, he always had my back with that. And it was an LLC, and I was like, all right, now what? Now how do I start this? Like, I don't know. Like, what's a boutique? Like, all I knew is kind of what I didn't like about current boutiques around the area, and just things that I've seen, and the delivery concept. That was kind of what sparked it.
Did you have, at that time when you're, I would assume, were you shopping at boutiques at all?
I was, yeah.
Yeah.
When I could, obviously, fresh out of college, I was frugal.
Yeah, well, and in the female scene, especially here in Pittsburgh, it seems like there's actually a lot of boutiques.
There are, yeah.
More than I really understood until I got into the fashion, and then just started talking to other people. And hey, I go to this boutique or this, or whatever. So it seems like it's really cool, because competition's a great thing. I think
it is,
right. It keeps you sharp.
For sure.
It keeps, and also, if the one thing I don't understand in my world, at least, is there's a lot of people that have negative things to say about us from a standpoint of our competition. And in my eyes, I don't look at it as if we have competition. I just look at it as if I'm building a business, and there happens to be other people that are also building a business that's the same space that I'm in. And I think we are the best, and I think our branding and everything about what we're doing is far greater than everybody else's, but I don't care what they think or anything in that capacity. I just have one goal. I have a general direction of where I want to go, and sometimes it goes straight, sometimes it goes far left, far right, but it eventually gets to where I'm trying to go.
Right.
So whenever you're starting this, I mean, you had to have a couple thoughts like, hey, I've never done this before. I'm fearful here. There's a lot of competition, but the local delivery is really where the flagship staple started for you.
Absolutely. So I definitely would shop at other boutiques, and I would talk to the owners. I remember going to Vintage Grace Boutique in Dormont very early on. I think it was like right out of college, and I was talking to the owner, and I'm like, this is so cool. Like, how'd you end up here? Just kind of asking questions, like not prying, not trying to like, let me see what this is all about. It was just kind of like getting to know her, and I was interested in that industry. And after just a conversation with her, after just kind of doing my own research about it, and hours of YouTube videos, Googling everything, how do I buy wholesale? Something as simple as that is where it started, because you just have no idea, but you just start. You figure it out, and you keep figuring out along the way. Each time you try something new that you have no idea what you're doing or who to even ask, you figure it out somehow.
Yeah.
And I think, having that drive and knowing that, like you just said, your business is the best. That's what you believe in your space. You have to believe that, and then that's going to fuel you, and that's going to just keep you going, keeping you digging for more and wanting to grow and wanting to keep figuring things out.
Yeah. Whenever the Vintage Grace person or whoever the people that you talk to throughout their early stages, were they receptive? Were they proud of what they've done? I mean, I'm sure when people ask me things, I love talking about it, right? A, I hope somebody at least can learn from it. And B, I'm proud. Like, this is stuff that we've accomplished with really having no blueprint and no guidance to doing this.
Right.
And we're still hanging around, and we made it through a global pandemic. So in a city that's not the most fashionable city in the world either, right?
Right.
And that's something I want to dive into as well at some point. But, were these people that you talked to, was there negative experiences? Was it all positive? And you don't have to, name anything in that
for sure.
standpoint.
No. So nobody was negative. Nobody was rude. Nobody was like, you talk about competition pretty frequently, and I never felt competition with anybody. I really never did. And I don't say that as like being arrogant. I just say it like, I knew what I was doing was different. Like clothing delivery, that wasn't even a thought. Now it is with COVID, which I would like to talk about that too.
Yeah.
Because that makes me feel some type of way, because this was like my bread and butter. It was local delivery. Nobody else was doing it. It was something that, like, I couldn't even set up my website to make it function the way that I wanted it to, because it was so new.
Yeah.
It was something that, even from the back end, it wasn't making any sense. It was something that I had to really like figure out on my own and like make it work. And as technology started keeping up, and now with COVID, my whole website has now changed, and now they offer delivery. So any boutique or any, person that hosts a website from that source could do delivery, or they could never even have the idea but still have access to it. And it's just kind of like, well, shit, that was it for me.
So did you start getting into the local delivery? Obviously in the beginning was the idea. Did it get easier because of platforms developing? Is that what you're kind of saying there?
Honestly, no, it didn't get any easier for me. I think I just kind of figured that part out along the way. It has gotten easier for everybody else to do it, but I like the way that I was doing it better anyway. Yeah. So like I would go back to that in a heartbeat, but it's just kind of like a little more simple, a little more user friendly from the customer standpoint to order delivery that way. But it's kind of funny seeing all these other boutiques and things doing delivery now, and it's kind of like,
So that's popping up a lot then.
It is. Yeah. It sure is, and it's like that. That's what I was known for, and like Posh Local, like the local was for delivery.
Yeah.
But early on, I definitely like focused my target market on Pittsburgh, and when I first started, I didn't even ship. I was like, no, it's just delivery. Like that's the whole point. And like, I didn't want to own a boutique. I didn't set out to want a store either. Like I didn't want a storefront. I didn't want a physical location for people to come and shop. That was never it for me. I was like, I worked in retail my whole life. I don't love the hours. I don't love working on the weekends. I didn't want to do that. And I wanted to be back end. I want to be in my car, driving around, sunroof open, just living life. Yeah. And that's what it was for quite a while. And then obviously there was a need for shipping, and I wasn't going to say no. So added shipping in, and pretty much just throughout the journey was listening to customers, giving them what they're asking for, as simple as that. And obviously staying true to the brand, staying true to what I do. But as far as delivery goes, like I still do it. I somehow find a way to deliver, work a storefront, do all the back end stuff as well. So
do you want to have a team? Are you looking at expanding in any capacity? Do you like the flow now? And
I like the flow now. I've had interns. Didn't work out with any of them.
It's hard. It's really, really hard.
It's really hard. Even when you pay them, like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I've been through 20 employees in a handful of years, and a lot of ours are independent contractors. And where we messed up was my vision when I started everything was, hey, I want to be a national brand, right? Instead of being a good brand here and expanding, we were like, yeah, let's just dive right in. Let's hire all over the country. I had sales reps in LA, Vegas, Miami, Philadelphia, Boston. And then it ended up being there was two of us doing all the sales anyway, and it was just me and Alvin at the time whenever he was here. So it made me say, okay, like, it's not as glamorous as you think, number one, to have employees. And now I believe in I'd rather have a smaller team and a better team. And I'd almost rather make less money and do it that way. Because there's so many headaches that come with that. And when you open your heart and you open your mind and you care for people, it's challenging because you're going to lose in business. At the end of the day, you have some good experiences, but unfortunately it seems like a lot of them are going to be more difficult, right? Mm-hmm. More so at the beginning stages of a business, right? That's the key right there.
I agree. I think right off the bat, I was like wanting to bring on an intern. I think I brought one on like not even a year in. And I was like, I just want help. Like, I don't want to do everything by myself. And I think I wanted just somebody there when I was doing pop-ups and things like that, loading my car. Like, maybe I should have just hired my mom at that point.
Yeah. Well, when
I just asked her for help.
So I remember whenever Alvin was my first true employee, I guess, with the company. Gave him a base salary and everything, and I probably hired him full time a year and a half to 2 years premature, and it made my life harder, but not realizing it. But my thought process was the same. I just needed help, or I wanted somebody to really kind of, see if they could grow this. Right. What more excitement than building something with somebody that believes in the journey as well. And then, so I was fortunate to have him for a number of years in the beginning stages, but then we tried to hire and grow quickly. And I had interns in the past that didn't work out. Then, you had freelance people that didn't work out, and some of it did, but it's challenging, but it's also disappointing because you care. Right. And when you see a vision, mm-hmm. and you have to teach yourself and understand that not everybody has the same vision that you have. Not everybody has the same understanding that you have. And also, like, that's okay. Which was hard for me to understand in the beginning. I'm like, why won't you understand this? Like, why can't you see this?
Yeah, right. It's crazy. That's a whole other podcast. Yeah. We could talk about that forever. I feel like just nobody really understanding your vision, where you're taking it, where you see it going. And I think like you and I are similar in the sense, like we just kind of follow our gut, at least from like what I hear from your other podcasts. Like, it's just a gut feeling, even just day to day. Like, what am I going to do today? It's a gut feeling. Like, what do I feel like I'm going to do best at today? Is it going to be the accounting side of things? Is it going to be the creative side of things? Do I need to have a photo shoot? Do I need to, just take a day and like refocus? Like, who knows? But trying to bring somebody else into that chaos is unfathomable, honestly, at this point. And I think I definitely learned early on, like, not having somebody there is fine. Yeah. Like, it's okay. It kind of sucks sometimes, for sure. But I feel a lot of pride in what I've built and being able to say that I did it completely by myself.
Yeah, no, I agree. And right now, I started in 2015, January. I launched of 16 with an actual business, and I have Krista who works with me now. She's been with me almost 2 years, and I'm trying to kind of mold her and groom her to run things. And so I'm in a spot now where I don't do really any of the fittings anymore. I'll travel, work with, celebrities, athletes, because I'm trying to grow the overall branding and that type of thing. And I like the networking aspect of it. And I'll do fittings here and there, but I'm also trying to make a career for her as well. So, I'm taking leads that come in and then I'm giving them to her. I'm helping, hey, I want to make sure she's taken care of. I've mentioned before on the podcast, I've had issues with people that were clients and would be pissed that I wouldn't work with them. And it's like, listen, I'm just trying to grow a business and I'm just trying to help someone else have a career and do those things. So there's obstacles that pop up as you're doing these and as you're trying to grow and expand that you really don't think of and don't prepare yourself for, because your intentions are all from a pure good place. And then somebody from the outside that doesn't understand what you're going through or how you're building your business just doesn't grasp that. So it makes it very difficult. And but once you get to that spot where you see the growth and you see that help is working out and you're having these other people get involved, it's a pretty cool feeling, because then you're like, okay, I put these things in place, and now I'm watching those things actually get legs, grow, and walk. And it's a unique feeling.
And being able to sit back and kind of like give somebody else the opportunity to, be a part of your vision, I think that's amazing. Yeah. I've definitely like started with an intern right when I started. didn't work out for obvious reasons. Like I didn't need the help then.
Did you find them at a school, or was it just a general?
She actually reached out to me. I guess she just found it on Instagram, reached out, which I liked, I'm like, okay, like I'm giving her 1 point for that.
For sure.
But then I had a couple interns after that, and each one progressively got better. And this past one that I had just over the holiday, she was amazing. And I was like, if you weren't going back to school, like I would hire you for sure. But it was one of those things. I received a piece of advice very early on. I think I was not even a year in. And this woman said to me, she's a small business owner in Pittsburgh too. She said, grow as needed, not as wanted. And that just always stuck with me. So each time I was ready to bring somebody on, I had to ask myself that. And I was like, do I just want somebody there? And that was definitely the case with the first one. Second one, pretty much the same thing. But the third one, I needed the help. And I'm getting to a point where I definitely do need the help, even just like emotionally, physically, all of those things. Like I can't physically be at the showroom and delivering. And when there's a need for that, I don't want to, again, back to customer service, I don't want to be the one that's letting them down because it's my face on everything, right. I didn't start branding with my face on everything, but it just kind of developed that way too. And I'm like, I am this brand. So like you said, people get disappointed when you're not the one doing the fittings because you're the namesake. But it's the same thing. What if I don't go to the showroom, then, are they going to be disappointed? Because I know that they come to have conversations with me and there's that fear too, I think, with bringing somebody else on. But
well, and I think from that standpoint that where you have to be, and any business owner in that spot is like, you have to, again, trust your gut, and you have to understand that there was a time where I would say, hey, I can't do fittings anymore. And somebody would have something negative to say, and then they would choose not to buy off me. And that's fair. Like, that's your decision. I'm cool with that. But I also am going to stick with my guns and respect that, hey, if that's what you want to do because I can't do it, fine. I have somebody that's perfectly capable of doing a good job, and maybe she does better than me. I don't know, right? But like, that's part of the game. And when you get to these different phases and you start understanding things, and as you continue to do what you're doing, your vision certainly starts to change. And then maybe in another couple months you say, hey, I think I can really go this route, right? Or I can go that route. And then you double down, you triple down, and you really focus on those things. You kind of let the leash off a little bit, then you tighten it. And it's just a game back and forth of figuring out how do you adjust the equilibrium of trying to grow something, step outside, but not too far outside, because you have this path that's generally in your mind.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's fun. It's cool that to be able to build something and to just enjoy doing it and having so much fun while you look at other people that we're associated with, or friends, or other the day-to-day person that has to go somewhere, do something, be somewhere, and you're like, man, I get to enjoy fashion, and I get to enjoy driving around and dropping stuff off. Like, that stuff's all, I have the van as well, and it's a cool feeling rolling up to someone's house, and whether they're home or not, and you have a fitting or not, like it's something that you can be proud of. That's something that you've worked hard, you've sacrificed, and it's become a big part of who you are.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So talk to me about let's talk about some difficult times.
I have one for you.
Yeah, no, like
I have a good one.
I think the one funny thing about entrepreneurial people is that you don't talk about the successes, and you typically, when I'm around my friends, it's like, oh shit, this happened or that happened, or you can't believe this, or
yes.
And then you just start reminiscing, and you're like, oh, okay, so it doesn't only happen to me, it happens to everybody. Okay, cool, I love you guys. So
wait, that is so spot on though. Like, nobody talks about, like, I actually, before this podcast, I'm like, wait a second, I need to like reality check myself. Like, what are the good things? Yeah. Because I forget sometimes, and I don't take the time to sit down and really reflect on all of the like funny little anecdotes that along the way, like even the interns, and as much as those I think were failures, they were definitely successes. Like, they brought me back. They refocused me, and like, I realized this person can't do it like I can, so I'm gonna do it even better than I did before. Do the work of two people. So sorry, that just took me off topic again, real quick.
You're fine. You're fine.
But difficult times. Okay, here's one for you. So I launched the website March of 2017, and March 1st.
Yep.
And on April 15th, which is my birthday of 2017, my car got totaled. So I opened up this delivery boutique, finally launched the website. I'm doing all this back end work for, 6 months, behind the scenes before I even said anything to anybody, and launched this website, finally start getting orders pouring in, and, getting the ball rolling, and my car gets totaled.
Were you driving?
No, it was parked. It was parked.
Oh, that's even, I mean, it sucks either
like,
way.
it's wild, though. Just absolutely wild. So I didn't have any money, that was my job, but I was working I was at one point working 7 part-time jobs and not paying myself from Posh. I didn't start paying myself until pandemic hit, to be completely honest. And I was at my lowest point. I was like, wait, what? Like, I thought that everything was lining up. This is what I was supposed to do. It almost felt like things were falling in my lap at that point. Like, these paths were laid out in front of me, all these opportunities. I was connecting with so many local business owners. Everybody wanted to collaborate and all these things. It was going to grow at a rapid rate. And then my car gets totaled. And not only did my car get totaled, my brother's car got totaled, my uncle's car got totaled, my neighbors on both sides.
All parked on the street?
All parked on the street parking. And this person totaled 6 cars. So it wasn't even a matter of, I could just, borrow my brother's car to run this delivery. It was, no, nobody has a car. I don't have any money. What am I going to do? It was a rough period. And it was also on my birthday. So it was like, whoa.
So what did you do? Damn. I mean, what's this? How do you move forward with that?
How did I come back from that? So it ended up being a blessing. So it was one of those things where it just completely turned around. I was driving like a little sedan and I ended up getting an SUV within like a month or so, working everything out with the insurance company. Luckily, I got something from my car, but I didn't have any money I couldn't even sign for it myself because I was fresh out of college, no credit. So my mom had to sign with me, and she was like, well, how are you going to pay for this? And I was like, well, I'll just get a job. Like, I'll just pay for it. I'll figure it out. She's like that. She's not that entrepreneur mindset that my dad's side was. So she's like, what do you mean? And I was like, I'll figure it out. She trusted me, signed with me. That's when started all 7 jobs. And I was working at the mall part-time. I was doing some freelance social media. I was in real estate. I was driving Uber and Lyft. I was a Coors Light girl. I was doing a little bit of everything at that point to make ends meet, to purchase this larger vehicle that ended up being such a blessing because I'm doing these pop-ups, again, doing them by myself. I don't have, a dad with a truck that I can throw everything in. It was just literally me showing up to all these events by myself, unpacking, repacking, everything. So it ended up being the greatest blessing. So that was a little comeback story. No,
that's awesome. And kudos, because that's, whenever you have something set and then it's completely ripped from underneath you, it's very hard to comprehend.
Yeah.
It sucks. Like, really bad. Because then you start thinking, okay, let me step back. It's probably the best thing that could actually happen, because what it does is it kicks you in the ass early enough and it says, oh, wait, I thought this entrepreneurial ride was going to be easy. Thank you for month 1 being the worst thing, the hardest thing ever. Because that's so something like that's happened to me before too. And it was like, I took it, and it took me a couple of days to get through the mental fight of like, damn, I thought this was going to be the ticket. I thought this was how businesses worked. I thought once you started a business, it automatically was successful. And then I remember having one of the most disappointing experiences, and I just was like, holy shit, like this is how it's going to go. But that also quickly made me say, all right, like, this is the game that we're playing. So I knew from the beginning, and nobody told me, nobody said anything. It was just me trusting and understanding a decision in a situation that made me go a certain route. And so I would assume it's the same thing for you. It just, you knew there was no other option other than to figure it out, work 6, 7 jobs, whatever you had to do.
Yep.
Now, how old were you? That 23-ish, 24 at that time?
Probably around there, yeah. So, 22, 23, I think.
So what about the aspect of going out on weekends? What about the aspect, I mean, that's an age where you go out, every night friends are drinking, every Friday and Saturday, there's a cost that comes to that. Maybe for females, it's not as expensive. So maybe you have that on your side and you're able to continue enjoying and letting people buy drinks for. But I didn't have that. So, did the time commitment change for you? Did you have friends that started saying, hey, let's go out? And you're like, I can't go out. I have this to do. That's a side of the business that people don't understand. Right. There's a lot of commitment and sacrifice from that.
For sure.
And I remember giving up bachelor parties or vacations or doing this because I couldn't afford it, and I couldn't afford, financially and the time commitment. So where are you with that?
Definitely on the same page as far as like those bigger, more expensive events. I definitely turned down some bachelorette parties, turned down, the more pricey things like that, more of a commitment as well. But I made it work. I did make it work. I balanced it pretty well, I think. Still had my fun, but I think that, so after I formed the LLC, I was working in real estate, like I said. which I was a leasing agent. So it was Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'm working. My days off, I think, were Monday and Tuesday. So it conflicted.
Yeah.
It definitely conflicted with the lifestyle that I had in college. And fresh out of college, I was like, wait a second, I don't want to do this. Like, I'm good at it, but I don't want to do it. Like, I don't want to have to be here at 9 a.m. like hungover from Southside. Like, I don't want to have to do that. I want to be able to enjoy, my youth.
Yeah.
But after my whole little stint in real estate, it didn't feel like work to me the weekends. So even though I would deliver on weekends, because, those were like the hot hours, and with the delivery concept being like within an hour, my whole business plan was kind of like targeting the girl in Southside that breaks her shoe, or the girl in Southside that, needs to go to this sorority formal and her dress is broken on her, or her zipper on her dress is broken, something like that. And it's one of those last minute things because, females, always last minute for everything. And just kind of like anticipating the unexpected was kind of where I was going with the brand, and with the same day delivery, and within an hour was the original game plan. But,
Did you ever run into issues with the delivery time? If it's just you and it's all within 1 hour, I mean.
At first, no, because it took a while for it to pick up, for orders to be coming in that steadily, honestly, until this year, to be completely honest, which has been a blessing within itself with all the life changes that I've experienced the past year. But and obviously with the pandemic, being able to pay myself and moving out and all those things, but. As far as giving up the weekends goes, like I pretty much made it work. And even when I was doing like the Coors Light stuff, I felt like I was out. So,
Well, that's one thing. When I was in college, I worked a front door at Diesel, it used to be called.
Stop.
So I worked the front door there for, I was a sophomore going into my junior year, and then for like 3 years. It was the coolest thing ever because it actually, when it just opened up, it was the first couple years. Pittsburgh had the All-Star game for baseball. It was Alex Rodriguez was there, Derek Jeter. At that time, the clubs and stuff in Pittsburgh, it was a whole different scene. It was actually really, really cool. But I had a chance to meet a ton of people that were in and out of the city all the time. So it was unique from that standpoint. But I always got my fix of going out, even though I wasn't going out and drinking and partying. I was there and present, and I got to experience it without the negative side of that, which was cool.
Right, for sure. I feel the same way.
Yeah, so it gives you the fix. It lets you feel that you're still a part of everything and all that stuff.
Yeah, so. You still feel like you socialize, but like you don't go home and you're not hungover the next day.
Yeah, no, for sure. So as you continue to grow the business, and where are you when it comes to the standpoint of, hey, there's the Amazons of the world, there's these other companies. What's the delivery or the service for Rent the Runway? Okay, yeah. Companies like that are popping up all the time, right? Is it still staying consistent with the 1 hour delivery, and that's where your staple is? Or has that changed?
That has definitely changed. Okay. So it changed as I evolved. So like I said, I never wanted to have a storefront, but another one of those opportunities that just laid itself right out in front of me. And it was something that I couldn't ignore at that point. I did ignore it. I tried to. I was like, I don't want a store. I don't want a store. People would tell me, oh, I saw this storefront. That'd be so cute for Posh. And I'm like, no, I don't want a store. Right. I don't want to be there. Like I'm growing out of my dad's sunroom. Like I need a space to store these things, but I don't want to have to man a showroom. I want to be out delivering. And I want to work on the back end stuff. I like the creative aspect of things. I like being the photographer. I like being the model. I like being the creative director. I like doing those behind the scenes things more than I liked working in retail. Like that's something that anybody I think could do. Maybe not as well, but sure. Somebody with a sales personality, they could take the lead on that. So I never wanted that. It was one of those things that just kind of fell into my lap. But I'm sorry, what was the original question?
No, just about, from the delivery service, from the 1 hour and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. So with opening the showroom, I definitely had to just totally switch around hours. Like I had to, it was something I had to figure out for a while because I wanted to do it all and work 7 jobs to pay for the car that I just bought.
Let's check here real quick. So you had the delivery services where you started, right?
Yes.
You get all these people that are, hey, look at this, here's a great spot for you. It starts going in your mind, you brush it off. What's the time frame from whenever you launched in, what was it, March you said?
It was March.
Okay, to whenever you actually had the storefront?
So the storefront opened about, I think a year and a half later.
Okay.
A year and a half later.
So for that year and a half, it's all delivery within an hour, boom, 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 and that's the direction of everything.
Yep.
So that takes us to 2019-ish time frame.
Yeah, I'm really bad with dates.
No, that's fine. No, I'm just trying to get an idea because I have a couple questions that I want to follow up with after once I kind of fine tune this. And I also think the thought process behind what you're about to say is important because same thing with me. You know, for 5 years, I had people in and out of my house and my kitchen all the time. I had clothing racks. You know, I built a house and then started a new business. And within a year, my house went from a house to a clothing store in a family development area where my sales team that I had working with me would randomly come and, you know, I'd hear the garage door opening up at 10 a.m. I'm like, oh shit, somebody has a fitting here. Then I would go upstairs in the office and work. They'd come in and meet some stranger in my kitchen.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's like that side of the story is so unique, and that's why I'm trying to really get an understanding because I think there's going to be a story for people to understand about just growth, adaptation on business, and I think you hit it pretty strong with where you're going with this. And that's why I'm so curious about that transitional phase because I never thought I was going to do custom suits. That was never something I ever wanted to do.
Right.
This just became it makes sense to do custom suits. So I'm assuming it just made sense for you to transition from.
It did.
Okay.
Yeah,
so That's where I'm trying. That's why I'm picking your brain on there.
Gotcha. I did want to like touch on the Amazon thing.
Yeah.
I've been told that my customer service is better than Amazon and that I'm faster than Amazon.
Right.
Well, that's a fact because you're always getting it same day. I don't know with these drones.
For now.
Yeah, I don't know what to expect with that, but they might put me out of business. Let's cross my fingers.
That's the cool thing though, right? So like we know what's coming with Amazon. We know those things and that's cool. Like let that happen and I'm going to keep growing as an entrepreneur and I'm just going to figure out a way to compete with Amazon because we know what's coming. There's, you know, if
no surprises.
If somebody was scared, then all right, get out of the game and do something else. But let's bring it on. Let me see how I can be better than a global giant, right? How can I continue to fight in this world? And that's the best thing about entrepreneurial people is the resilience to just say, fuck it, I'm going to keep going. So bring on whatever you have to. Challenge me in any way you possibly can. I'm still going to win.
For sure.
And it's not an arrogant thing. It's like, I love this game of business and I love this game of life.
Yes, I love that you call it a game because
that's all it is.
It really is. And I just love that outlook though because you should be fun. It should be fun, even though it sounds crazy to compete with Amazon. Like that's what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, somebody could buy that same thing from Amazon essentially, you know, with manufacturers or whatever, and they choose not to, and they're going to get it faster. So yeah, you pay a little bit more and you're supporting a local business. Like it's all worth it.
And that's, and we'll get to that in a second. And that's the reason, right, that business and small business is so important because, you know, we're in such an interesting time with Amazon being what it is, right? There's a reason it's as successful and big and large and all that stuff, but that doesn't mean there's not opportunity for other people to keep playing the game and doing what they're doing. And that's what I love about this is just like, it just constantly makes you be sharp and it constantly makes you to think outside the box in order to continue to grow, thrive, and be successful. So
right. I definitely think there's a reason though that not a lot of people do this. You know, I mean, a lot of people do it, but a lot of people don't. And I think about that every time I see a pizza shop. I'm like, another pizza shop? And it's like not a chain. I'm like, how do you think that you're going to make it? And they do.
They crush it.
Every time. And everybody wants pizza. Everybody wants to try something new. So I just think about that all the time. Like, you know, what gives us the edge? But it's like, anybody could have the edge.
Yeah.
They just have to believe in themselves enough to you know, put it to good use.
Right.
And stay on track, which I'm not. So what was the...
No, you're fine.
Back to the showroom.
Yeah.
So the showroom opened up in... Don't quote me on dates. I'm not even going to give you dates. I know, but they're throwing me off now.
Sometime in 2019.
Sometime. So I opened up the showroom. Basically, I just was growing out of my dad's sunroom. It was just a tiny little sunroom in Brookline, and I just had racks of clothing and a little desk. And I realized like people wanted to come try stuff on. People wanted to return things. People wanted to, like, I wanted to do photo shoots. And I'm like, all right, you have to like come into my dad's, like meet my dad, meet my dog, like all these things. And I'll throw up a backdrop in this like 2x2 room and see how it goes. And it worked for a while, to be honest. But it just got to a point where, in all honesty, before I signed the lease on the showroom, I was like, this might be it. Like, this could be it, because I felt stagnant, and I hate that feeling. I was like, yeah, things are growing, but like, I feel uninspired. I feel like I'm ready for the next big thing. And signing the lease on the showroom scared the shit out of me. That was definitely the hardest thing. Like, despite the whole car, the whole car total situation.
Without getting too detailed, right? Were you at a point financially where you were comfortable enough to do that, or was it more of a gut? I say, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make it work. Should I do it right now? Maybe not. Maybe another 6 months. But I'm going to fucking do it and see what happens. Is that?
Yeah, it was the latter.
Yeah. So that's the thing that I love, right? I did the same exact thing here, and we were doing a ton of revenue and selling a ton of shit, but you have a business, you have loans, you have debt you're paying off, you have product, you have mistakes, you have a million different things that you're going through that I always wanted to keep a reserve and be able to do that. And for us, it wasn't until the pandemic that really launched us to a comfort level. So I'm in the same world that you are. But, for those of you that listen to this or watch or whatever, trust it. Just, you're an entrepreneur. Like, you are the one that's in the driver's seat. You are the one, I say this every single time, you know the numbers, you know the business, you know the interactions with clients, you know the feels, you know the fears, you know all those things. So even though if you have a mentor, if you have somebody trying to talk you through business, guide you through something, that's great, and those are valuable things to have. But at the end of the day, their opinion doesn't matter and their thought doesn't matter. You have to trust your gut, and you have to trust yourself to say, hey, I believe this is the right decision. I believe I can make this work, and I'm the one that's going to do all those things.
For sure.
And it sounds like that's exactly what you had to do.
Yeah, exactly. And the same thing, like back to the car thing, like signing on for this car that I didn't know how I was going to pay for. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I'm just going to do it. Like, that's all you need to know. And like, I did it. And it was another one of those things where I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do it. Do I have enough money to pay for it? Do I have like 6 months rent saved up before I sign this lease? Can I like flip this store to make it look the way I want it to look? No, I couldn't. And I did want to touch on, like you said, we were talking about like loans and things like that. I never took out a loan for Posh. This was completely just, just bootstrapped it and took the money from that leasing job and turned it into more, and just kept doing that same cycle, kept putting it back into the business. And luckily I was in a position where I was still living at home and didn't have to take anything from it up until the pandemic. And I was working all these side jobs, kind of running myself ragged, doing all of this crazy stuff, had my toes dipped in everything. But back to what? So
you get into the storefront.
So I get into the storefront.
So let's talk about that process too, because that's overwhelming for somebody that's hey, now I'm responsible for a 3-year lease, 5-year lease, 1-year lease.
Just 1 year.
Okay.
And I was trying to talk him down.
Good for you.
I was like, come on, 6 months. Come on. He was like, no, you can do it. He was an entrepreneur himself with a pizza shop in Oakland. So he was like, you can do it. Like, he's giving me a pep talk. I'm like giving him the runaround. I'm like, put on my business owner pants, and I'm like, no, we're going to have to go down to 6 months. Like, I'm going to need you to do all, like, trying to make it make sense for me. But at the end of the day, it was just my anxieties and my fears just taking a hold of me. And I didn't really know that I was doing the right thing, to be honest. I was like thinking, okay, well, I have enough inventory that I could liquidate everything and pay off the lease and just have this space until it runs out. And, running through those thoughts, that takes you to a negative, pretty dark place, even just thinking that you could fail like that when you're taking a step, and that could totally derail you. And
did you do anything? Was there anything that you work on, or is there anything that you train yourself to do whenever things are difficult? Or, that's, to me, mental health is a very, very important thing. I've been through some really dark, alone times. Things that were very paralyzing mentally. So I try to freely talk about those things because I know I needed somebody to talk to that I really didn't have anybody at that time. Maybe 1 or 2 people, but I was never as true and transparent with them as how I was actually feeling. So is there anything that you do for the mental focus, stress, any of I know obviously you're walking all the time. I used to see you all the time on Grandview and McCardle.
Yes.
So are those things that you do, and what did you do in the times where it was really challenging?
Yeah, for sure. I think, honestly, just growing up in childhood, like I think I developed a lot of like coping mechanisms along the way, and then through college and things like that, I would do yoga, I would go for the walks, I would lift weights, things like that really like take your mind off of things. A lot of physical exercise. I think that's like the best thing and the easiest thing, honestly. It's just something you should be doing anyway. But as far as like specifically for entrepreneurs, I would talk to other people. I would love to talk to other business owners and be like, hey, like, what did you do when you opened up this store? And same business owner that I talked to, that I told you about previously, I went and sat down in her shop and I'm like looking around. I'm like, all right, well, how did you get this like shelf up here? And like, what's the best way to do this? And I just had no idea. Like, not even on like the merchandising side of things. I'm not like handy. Yeah, for sure. Like, I don't have a drill. I don't know how to build a store. Like, what did I get myself into? So it was one of the hardest things, but I think I did a lot of it alone. I think I do well with alone time.
Yeah, it's important.
Yeah, just as much as I like being around people, but knowing who to go to and like knowing the people that are going to have your back and that aren't going to, like, back to the competition over, community over competition. Like, I reached out to my community. I was transparent about the process too, as much as I could. I didn't really post anything on social media at that point. Like, I was like, yeah, something's coming, but like, I was kind of scared. I didn't want to talk about it until it was done because I didn't even know if it was going to happen. Yeah. And so I was just kind of figuring it out along the way. I would say definitely taking care of mental health is number one. And I've transitioned like fully, like my friends call me the self-care queen now because it's just all I do is just take care of myself and my business. Like, that's it. It's all I have the mental space for, the mental capacity.
Are you from you had mentioned like being alone and all that stuff, right? I'm a huge believer. Like, I'm an extremely extroverted person, but at the same token, I'm extremely an introvert.
Yep.
And as good as I am or feel that I am in social settings and how much I enjoy those, there's nothing more that I enjoy than being by myself, sitting on a couch with nobody around and putting a podcast on, watching TV, scrolling through my phone. I mean, that it's so weird how many people that I'm running into that really appreciate those things. And then there are certain people that think something's wrong, or some friends may think, hey, this is changing, that's changing, but like, I love my time.
Right.
And sometimes I'd rather have my one day a week to be by myself than it is to be with friends.
For sure. I don't know if that's a business owner thing. I don't know. I'm trying to figure that out myself because I've been running into a lot of people that don't feel that way. They don't like to be by themselves, or even like recharging to them is like going out for drinks with a friend. And I'm like, recharging for me is like a bath, like wine, maybe tea, podcast, book. I'm always reading. I think, and just even taking an extra like 20 minutes in the morning to like have my coffee in silence without my phone. Yeah. Like, that's huge for me.
What's your morning routine? Do you have anything consistent?
Yeah. So I wake up every morning, make my bed immediately. Like,
what time do you get up?
It depends on the day. Yep. Like, that's the thing about my schedule and being an entrepreneur, that freedom that we talked about. Any day, like, I can wake up and be like, all right, what's on the agenda today? Let me check in with the boss. Oh, it's me. Like, what are we doing? Sure. So it's just kind of like, what do I feel like doing? And I have the freedom to decide that. And it's such a blessing. I like pray all the time. I'm like, I am just so grateful. Yeah. Like, I don't know how I got to this place. Some days I feel like I don't deserve it. Yeah. I really don't. And some days I feel like I don't put it to enough good use. I don't, do enough with my day. Yeah. But some of those days are necessary, so then you can kill it other days. And other days people are like, wait, how are you have the showroom and you're delivering and you were just working retail, you're working on the website while you're doing this, and you have time to like go out with your friends, like how?
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like, again, playing the game and figuring it out along the way. But as far as morning routine goes, I always make my bed, always have coffee, whether it's iced or hot. Sure. I always drink it out of a wine glass if it's cold. That's just like my little thing. It just makes me feel real bougie and classy.
That's the flow.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. Like, I feel like you've talked about it before, like driving a nice car. Like, those, just the little things, they remind you, they're like, okay, like, this is what you're working for. Not that the wine glass is like it's over
all,
the top, but
look, there's things that you do in your life and everybody does in their life that you justify your reasons for everything that you do, right? My justification is I'm in my car as much as I am my house. So I want to have a nice house and I want to have a nice car. Hey, I happen to like nice things. Okay, well, if I need nice things, I have to have the opportunity to afford those nice things or do those. And I'm not a show off, look at me type of person, but I'm going to do what I want to do type of person, and I don't want an approval from anybody because I just don't need that approval from anyone. And that's something too that I think our generation, we live far differently than our parents' generation. My parents are older than yours, obviously, but that generation is even more different, where it's put every dollar you can in the bank and save and save and save. And, I'm at my point where I'm like, hey, Dad, I don't want you to leave us anything. Like, don't. I would be happier that whenever the time comes where my parents aren't around anymore, that they actually leave us no money. And my thought process is like, dude, you worked your ass off for this. My dad lost his job 4 or 5 times in the 90s and then became really successful after that. And not that he wasn't in the 90s, it was a harder time for us. And then I look at how much work my mom put in with raising 3 kids all within 4 years of an age gap. And the times are so different then. And I'm like, man, like, you worked your ass off. I don't deserve like, you've already put me in a position to be successful. If I'm at this point and I can't be successful, shame on me. But we have to also respect our different generations' mindsets and what they grew up in, and times were different, and they are who they are because of the way that they grew up, right? So that's the interesting thing. But I'm one of those people that I believe you put money away and you save for a rainy day, but I'm also a believer in like self-care, and I'm also a believer in like, man, if you want something, get it, as long as it's calculated within reason.
Right.
And don't bury yourself in debt. Don't put yourself in it, because that shit is just a nasty hill to go down. Everybody's done it. You just don't want to go that path. But you got to enjoy the finer things in life.
Right.
Life goes fast.
For sure.
It's really wild.
For sure. And I know that you've like talked about this before, but it's a motivator. It's a motivator. Like, every time I get in my car, I'm like reminded. I'm like, okay, this is why you bust your ass. And this is why today you're going to work an extra hour, because like, you get to drive this car that you always wanted, and things like that. And like, having the opportunity, having the business to rely on in that way, like, is just a game changer. Like, it's the only consistent in my life,
for sure.
Quite frankly.
So whenever you got into the showroom, start remodeling and everything, I want to talk more about the transitional phase too. From the hour delivery and everything to really to where you are now with the business, and then I want to kind of learn a little bit about what you have coming up in the future and all that, and we'll dive into that here shortly. But so talk to me. You get the keys, you get in there, you start renovating some things. Where are we with that? Is business good? Is business picking up? Pandemic's approaching. Let's kind of like bridge that gap.
Sure. So when I first opened, I was like, okay, I'm putting pretty much everything into this. Like, I'm going to remodel it to the best of my ability with what I have, which wasn't much. Like I said, like, I really didn't save up for it because I wasn't planning on it. It was just kind of one of those things, like, you got to do it, and you got to do it now, or you're never going to grow, essentially. So that was kind of my thought process. So signed the lease. I was in there trying to buy enough inventory to have like a full space, fill it up.
Are you still buying stuff through Posh at this point? Or
No. So I was never buying anything through Poshmark for Posh. So that was just like the side jobs. That was selling like my personal clothing.
Okay.
More so than anything like related to Posh until recently. No, I was buying from wholesalers a lot in Los Angeles, some in New York, going that route. So
did you ever go out to Magic? And
I haven't. No, I've been wanting to go.
You have to do it.
I planned it like 3 times, and then pandemic, and I was like, I better just take an L on this.
So it's who knows what it's going to look like, after all this stuff is said and done. But I've gone to 3 or 4 of them, and it's great. It's an overwhelming experience. The opportunity is really cool. It's motivating because you see tens of thousands of people all crammed in this. Everybody's on a mission to how can I grow. And there's some people that the bullshit people that are there as well. But it gives you a pretty big perspective of how large the world is and how large that industry actually is, but also how small it is too. So you start selling from wholesalers, you're picking up product that you like, that you style, that represents who you are as a fashion face, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, my saying was always bold over basic.
I like that.
So I was always like, wait, if you're gonna get, and like I said, I worked at TJ Maxx, so I'm like, if you're gonna get like a plain white V-neck, why would you spend $40, and why would you get it from here when you could just like pick up the basics from your TJ Maxx? And in my mindset, I'm like, I'm frugal at this point. I just graduated college. Like, I'm trying to save money wherever I can. So I would rather spend a lot more money at these boutiques and buy like the eye-catching piece that maybe you wear one time, maybe you wear it twice, but it's one of those pieces that just makes you feel like a million
Unstoppable.
bucks.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
it's just one of those things you look at and you're like, wow, like that's if I wore a blazer, that would be me. Like that was kind of my mindset.
It's one of those things that when you get dressed up early on a Saturday and you're like, oh, I hope everybody sees me, and then nobody sees you, and then you wear the same outfit the next day.
You're like, one more time. Or like I'll send people pictures of what I'm wearing. I'm like, okay, this is what you got to live up to.
Well, see, when I was growing up, right, I'm growing up still, but when I first got out of college, social media wasn't what it is now, and everybody's taking the selfies now. Everybody's taking the fashion pictures, so it's such a whole different dynamic. So now you got to make sure if you do take that picture and you wear it out, you got to be careful with circulating the outfit. So it's all part of the new game. So
and social media, just to touch on that, like has been a huge part of what I do. Not only just with Posh, but I was running social media on the side as well. So it's just kind of like social media fueled a lot of this. I think I had the Instagram account before I even purchased my first item of clothing.
Yeah.
It was just kind of like, it's the name of the game these days.
Yeah. I know I said it earlier, but you've done a really nice job from everything, and I have the marketing company, so we dissect brands all the time, and we're just truly trying to get an understanding of the buyer's thought process, the psyche, and all that stuff. And everything comes down to credibility on every platform that we touch or that we see. And you do a nice, consistent job on what you do, but you also do a very progressive job. And, that's something that I'm trying to work on, that I think I do okay with it, but there's a lot that I'm not taking advantage of. And I see some of the stuff that you post, and it motivates me to try to, hey, I got to be better in this lane, and I got to do stuff. So, kudos to you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
It's cool to see that you're pretty dialed in from that side of social media, which is the world we live in, and what allows us to be successful in business with all the competition out there too.
For sure. Yeah. Social media definitely changes the game with marketing and with competition. Like you said, like it's easy to keep an eye on your competitors, but it's also easy for them to keep an eye on you.
Yeah.
So in the same breath, you're like, okay, I'm going to post this. This is like groundbreaking. This is amazing. People are going to love this. And then the next day you see another business doing the same thing because they have access to it.
Yeah.
So it's
weird. I don't follow any of my competition, and I try not to look at anybody else because I just genuinely don't care what they're doing. I'm so like, this is the way I want to go, and maybe I'm missing the boat with certain things, but I'm just so like, I trust myself so much more. Now there are like fashion people I'll look up to, different designers and things, because I just love other brands. I love entrepreneurial people, so I'm attracted to the visual of what somebody can create and what somebody can do to try to change the world or do something unique. So it's weird. There's some things on social I probably need to get better at or focus more on. I've never really been in that realm too much, because I honestly want everybody to be like, hey, I want to see what that person's doing. And I don't know, it's kind of like a weird feeling on my end. I don't know, something stupid, I guess. But so whenever you get the, you're into the storefront, how does it change? Talk to me about the delivery going from that to, hey, here's where we are, here's the new process. And I'm sure there was there any drop off with clients at all? Did people get upset about that, or was it or did the pandemic essentially make that a seamless transition?
Right. So definitely the pandemic made it a seamless transition. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
I'm bumping into stuff. But as far as the delivery aspect, when I opened the showroom, like I said, I was still working those other jobs, and it wasn't necessarily a 9 to 5. I had flexibility there, but I needed to be in Sewickley at the time, for several hours a day. And the person I was working with was flexible with my schedule, and I could, I have a delivery come through, but I couldn't market while I'm there. You know what I mean? So I couldn't be doing what I would want to be doing, and I couldn't do it necessarily full time at that point. So I would have the showroom as like, I was trying to make it work. I was trying to do a little bit of everything and realized it wasn't working. I couldn't be 3 places at once. So I pulled back the hours, working with a real estate company in Sewickley, and I was just focusing on the showroom and delivering. And at first I was like, okay, well, I made this look like a boutique. It was going to be a warehouse. And then I was like, I'd be, doing myself a disservice if I didn't make it at least look like a boutique, make it shoppable. So I ended up like working a little bit from the showroom with the real estate agent and trying to make that work, and being open as much as possible when I first opened, because I wanted foot traffic. I didn't know what it was going to be like in Brookline. I just kind of like like the cheap rent and the small space. So I was kind of just feeling it out. I would track how many people came in each hour, each day, and see if there was any consistency whatsoever. There wasn't.
Of course, there's no rhyme or reason for a lot of that stuff.
Never. I tried to do my due diligence, couldn't figure it out. So I ended up pulling back from the actual I was doing freelance social media with this real estate agent, and I ended up pulling back from that for several reasons. But at that time I was also doing freelance social media for, I think at that point, 4 other clients while I'm doing everything else that I was doing. So those jobs had the freedom where I could work from the showroom. I could be open and I could be still selling things to people that came in, but still be making money to pay my bills behind the scenes and be doing social media for them. So social media really played a huge role, still does.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the transition there. So I was open as much as I could, and then I would just deliver. I played around with delivering. As soon as an order came through, I'd be like, all right, showroom's closed for an hour, gotta go deliver. And then I would come back and I'd be like, all right, we're open again, and just use social media that way to update people. But with that very little consistency.
So that is something that I think people need to pay attention to, because it's figuring out how to make something work. And no business in the beginning phase is really presented itself as best as it can be, because you have to wear so many hats.
Right.
And it's about surviving, and it's about making something work, and it's about, hey, I understand that I'm just in a different stage in business at this point. So you know what? I am going to close because I have something else that I'm going to do. It is or it isn't any of your business. It doesn't matter, but I'll be back. And I'll be here at this time. And if you have a problem with that, go somewhere else. This is how we operate here. But when you interact with me, that's why it goes back to the customer service.
Right.
The customer service then says, hey, okay, cool, she's gone for this time frame. That's my girl. Like, we're cool. I'll come back and support her. And that's what people don't understand.
Right.
You put these other aspects of business in place. It allows you to then build a business the right way. You know, you're not getting in over your head by having an employee that you're paying hourly to sit there when you're gone. You're not losing revenue.
I was just going to say, right back to that, grow as needed, not as wanted.
Yeah.
Like, I could have at that point been like, oh, well, what would make sense right now is to hire somebody that's going to sit here in case somebody comes in, even though it was brand new and I didn't know if anybody was coming in, and I could be out delivering. And, you know, it was kind of like, you got to weigh your options. You got to figure out what makes sense. At that time, what made sense was close the showroom, stop what I'm doing, and go and deliver, because that was the bread and butter. That's what I wanted to do. That was the main reason I started this. So like, I don't want to lose those delivery clients. You know, those are my people.
Right? Yeah,
those are the ones that supported from day one and only purchased online and only wanted delivery. And that's what I like to do anyway. So, back to the customer service thing, not losing sight of that, not, you know, maybe it's not the best experience for the person walking in when I'm not there and there's a be back in 10 sign on the door, but you know, as a small business owner, that's you have to you have to balance out that customer service that you're getting above and beyond Amazon, above any retail place really that you would go, and have that personalized shopping experience. And you have to kind of weigh your options. What's going to work best, and what do people want more? Like me on my A game, doing everything, or you know, being able to take a step back and just be like, all right, this is not working. So this is kind of how I have to regroup. So at that point, I was kind of closing the showroom, driving whenever I needed to, on deliveries. And then I was like, you know what, but the people that could be coming in, like I had so many people come in and say, you're never open. Like, why are you always closed? Like, I didn't know if this, like, I thought you were already out of business. I was like, okay, like, that's fine. Like, you can think that, that's cool. I put on the window, shop online. Yeah. Like, I don't know what else I can do if you guys don't have a computer.
What shows you the consumer, unfortunately, is not always the most intelligent. And you know, no disrespect to anybody buying anything. It's just the attention span in the world we live in is just not there. Right. Which is why it's important to keep everything else flowing. It's just a different field that we operate in now.
You have to teach them how to shop with you.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, you have to teach them how you want them to shop, what's going to work best for them. So I think at that point, that's when I chose delivery over the showroom, even though it was the new thing, the new shiny toy. Like, you know, everybody wants to be in the showroom, but I was like, no, like, delivery is where it's at. Yeah. And thankful that I did that, because if I would have switched my platform and really honed in on showroom hours and put all my energy into that, then delivery may not have stayed as steady, and then the pandemic hit. Yep. So then what would have happened? Then I had to close, and I really feel for the business owners that didn't have anything in place. I was very fortunate enough that I did already have the infrastructure of delivery in place. Like I already had my system going. You guys were all scrambling to figure it out. Not you guys in particular, but
I understand.
Everybody was kind of scrambling, and I really feel for them. I really felt bad, and I was like, I didn't even know if I should keep delivering. I was like, you
got to keep going.
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
So the pandemic, you said that was where you really started getting comfort behind everything? Or?
So the pandemic switched my financial situation around, because even the people that I was still doing social media for, they were like, well, I can't pay you because we're not open. And I was like, oh, you're right. Like that makes sense. But like, shit, like I still have bills. That's not going away. Like I still have that car payment. Like, what am I going to do? So at that point I was like, all right, well, I have Posh. Like, again, back to Posh was the only consistent. I have Posh. Posh is doing well. I already have delivery. Like, it kind of just worked out. And it was in a crazy way. And that's why I'm so thankful for it. But I was still able to, I didn't skip a beat with having to even close, because that's not what people knew me for. If I would have opened the showroom first before I even had delivery and then added that on, like, it just wouldn't have been the same. So it was kind of like, everybody already knew that the showroom came second to delivery. So I was good to go.
So with the pandemic and with when you fall back onto Posh and that whole style of business, that became taking the wholesaler product, stuff that you want in your store, and just selling it now more direct through Posh, or Posh has always been in the mix with that?
Are you talking about Posh Mark or Posh Local?
Yeah, the local.
Yeah, so Posh Local was always, I was always selling online.
Right.
Just direct to consumer online. And then with the pandemic, when the showroom opened, then I was doing, in-person sales, but people were still ordering online. So nothing changed throughout that process, really.
So it literally just worked out better from, hey, pandemic happened, and I don't want to say worked out better, but for the situation, for what it is, pandemic happens, you had the flow and the idea of the vibe of the delivery service. Okay, cool. People still wanted to buy stuff. People still wanted to get new clothing and whatever.
I don't know why. Like, it honestly blew my mind. Yeah. Like, sales picked up. The first month.
Yeah, for sure.
I was like, what? Like, where are you guys going?
Yeah.
What are you getting fancy for?
Well, I don't get it. I don't think I might have wore a suit twice for all of 2020. So wherever they were going, I wish I would have known.
Yeah, because I didn't get an invite. That's for
sure. So business just picked up for you. It just kept growing and growing throughout that.
It did. So it was another one of those things where I had to make a decision. Do I trust myself, and do I trust Posh enough to, okay, I'm going to start paying myself from Posh. I'm going to start paying my rent from, I'm going to start writing checks to myself. And I just had to do it. I had no other choice at that point, especially with the pandemic. And I was like, well, I'll just, recoup it or figure it out. And all these loans going around, maybe I'll figure something else out. And didn't end up taking any of those routes. I just kind of figured it out. And luckily my people had my back. My girls, they were shopping. And
awesome.
Through that, it gave me even more motivation to expand, and like, okay, like, Posh has my back. You guys have my back. You guys are Posh. Posh has my back. Like, I wouldn't be where I am without my customers. So it was another leap. It was one of the showroom signing of the lease, like back to the car thing, like just taking the leaps. And I just began paying myself at that point. I was making even more money than I thought I was going to make that month, and it was a pandemic. So it was kind of like, ooh, I don't understand it. I definitely shifted a lot throughout that point. I, was targeting, athleisure. I was shopping more for athleisure. I was selling more athleisure. I was in athleisure more often, which that goes back to the social media thing, where whatever I'm posting, people want. So if it's athleisure, they're getting athleisure. And a lot of changes there, but then I had the idea for the men's line, and then that kind of came. That was the pandemic idea. Now here we are.
So did you have any issues when it came from pre-pandemic, 30 days before, 60 days before, pandemic happens, people were starting to wear different types of product? Were you stuck with a boatload of inventory you couldn't get rid of? Was it it worked out well where there wasn't a ton of inventory that you had to stress about? Where did that come from?
So I pretty much don't keep too much inventory on hand anyway. That's just kind of like my style.
Run lean,
So that's just kind of like my preference as a business owner. But I mean, there were pieces like, I don't know when the next time somebody's going to be wearing this like cocktail dress, but people still bought it. It was kind of shocking. It really was. But I definitely had to step up my marketing. I had to like start doing more on social media, like trying on things, and like I did it in a funny way. Even though obviously the pandemic's not funny, like I would try and find the humor in it, and I'd be like, all right, I don't know where I'm going, but like check out this dress.
Yeah.
Like I would kind of sell it in that way. And I think that's why people still bought it. Like, you know, they kind of just, all right, well, I can bust out of quarantine wearing this, because that's like something I would say. And the transition into athleisure, it was just an obvious choice. Like there was just no way around it. That's all you saw. People were just like, oh, another day in sweatpants. Like all the memes, the reels, the TikToks, everything.
Yeah, that's something that, I mean, for years I wanted to get into the athleisure world, and that's where I wanted to really start early on. For 5 years, I never had the time to slow down and do it. And fortunately, it forced us an opportunity to get into that, and it's done very well for us. Now we're having growing pains trying to get that up and running, manufacturing issues, and just stuff that you just, okay, it's a new business. The inventory game, playing that, and so we're still, you know, my goal used to be, hey, every month I wanted to grow by X, and now this has been like, hey, 2020, I just want to, by the end of the year, by the fall, I really want to be good at ready to wear, and then I'm not attaching it to any dollar value.
I like that. Just be good at ready wear.
Yeah, because it's a whole new business, and just even with the men's side of stuff you're doing, it's a different business. You have different clients. I don't know what people want to wear all the time. I can just guess based off of stuff that I want to, you know, make and sell. You know, so you have to really be able to be nimble. And I always said, hey, I'd rather bring in less inventory, sell out quicker, have people upset that they can't get it, versus having too much and then I'm upset that I can't sell it.
Right.
So that's
because coming from a place of desperation, you know, you're not going to be able to sell it as well.
For sure.
I think that plays a huge role in it too. And I do the same thing. Like I pretty much, when I buy packs, so like with wholesale in the boutique world, you're typically buying packs of like 6, 12, 18, 20, depending on, you know, what you're buying. But I usually keep it just to 6. And I'm like, you know, even if I know it's going to sell out, I'm like, no, it's just going to be 6, because Pittsburgh's small. You know, I don't want 12 people walking around with the same thing. No, you know, even if it's recognizable and like, yeah, that's good marketing, it's like, no, I don't want that. I want my customer to have that full experience.
Yeah, and that's, you know, we do custom, right? They don't want to see people wearing the same stuff that they have. Same thing with you. It's a unique experience that people want different. And we want different in a world where there's access to everything. And it's quick access to that. So what's next for you guys? What's the future look like? What's the direction you're going? You have the women's line, you have the men's stuff, you have the delivery service that's doing really well. You have the boutique. You know, was there anything next on the horizon for you, or is it just, hey, let's just keep getting better, let's sharpening what we have, and let's just try and dominate the space that we're in?
I'm definitely in a position where I still feel like I'm in a transition. I don't think I'll ever feel like I'm not, because I'm always after the next thing. But right now, I think just with everything that I've had going on in my personal life, things have just been calm. Like I've just been steady. Things have been good. So I think my next move is definitely on the horizon, but I just haven't figured it out just yet. But yeah, I'm definitely open to opportunities. I think that's huge. That's where I try and stay mentally, and just, you know, if an opportunity presents itself, like I'm there if it's a good fit. But, you know, I don't really plan too much. I'm just kind of rolling with what's working right now, and it has been working and it is growing. So I'm just trying to stay there. Yeah, stay there, sharpen up, like you said.
Well, and that's something too that I think a lot of people, you know, I'm guilty of it. I think the shiny light syndrome of an entrepreneur is like, hey, I think I could do this, I could do that, I could do this, right? And I can pull those things off, but I'm starting to figure out that there's no ending destination.
Right.
And when I'm enjoying what I'm doing, that's all that really matters. And then as I'm building things, then it makes more sense. You know, the marketing company led from just making sense. We're launching a subscription T-shirt for David Allen here at some point this summer. I have to circle back with Chris, who's listening over there. He's part of this. So, you know, that's something that we thought about last year, and when the pandemic happened and the timing didn't work out, but we want to get into the subscription T-shirt business. It just makes sense for us to try something different. And so, you know, I have other ideas that I want to do, and I have a list of 100, and you leave them there and you forget about them. Some of them you pay attention to, some of them you don't. Some of them you look back, like, what the hell was I thinking? But at the end of the day, look, that's why I say I don't think I'll ever retire. I think I'll always want to work and I'll always want to hustle because it's the same recipe for success. And it's just kind of figuring things out and making things work. Back to what we said earlier, when you enjoy what you do, I don't wake up, like my Saturdays are as good as a Monday morning for me, as good as a Tuesday, as good as a Wednesday. And I think a lot of people can't fathom that, but I genuinely mean that. You know, we had a video shoot for our marketing company. I was up at 5:30 or 6 o'clock on Friday for the shoot. Do that all day long. Sunday morning we had another photo shoot at 7 a.m. You know, from 7 to noon. So it's like that's my weekend, but like I look forward to that.
Right.
And Chris and I were actually talking about that too. And he's like, you know, weekends feel good to work because it's just, you know, you're not going to get interrupted by a lot of other things, and you have more control over the weekend than you do the weekday from a regard to distraction standpoint.
For sure.
So it's unique.
Yeah, no, a lot of that makes sense. Yeah, you're definitely not going to retire because you have that list of 100. You got to start chipping away at it. Come on.
I'm going to go crazy at some point, but so
no, I love that though. And that's so true though, to have like that list, that running list, and like a lot of those things, like, yeah, you come back to and back to like when I formed the LLC, like that was an idea. I mean, I, took some major steps towards it, but then I put it on the back burner, went into real estate, and then I was like, wait, I'm good at this. Let me go get my license. Like it's one of those things where you have these ideas, you have a plan for yourself, but at the same time, like being an entrepreneur and having that freedom, like you got to know when to hold them and you got to know when to follow the next path, because a lot of times, at least for me, these opportunities will present themselves and I'm like, well, I can either follow my A plan or I can follow this B plan, but like, I don't know if this B plan is going to be around, but I can always do this plan A. This is always going to be on my list, but this opportunity might not be there tomorrow.
Yeah. So let's talk here, we'll wrap here in a few minutes, but let's talk about like the best part about things, right? As an entrepreneur, there's life lessons that you run into. There's situations you run into. There's growth things that happen to you. What's been the most beneficial thing that you've experienced? What's been the thing that you could look back at most and say, hey, I had an idea. I gave it everything I could. It wasn't always easy. It wasn't an instant success. It took time to grow, and it's going to continue to take time to grow. But this is the best benefit I've got. Do you have anything that you're every day you're just like, all right, yeah, this did this to me, or this made me feel a certain way? And not to throw, I'm just curious because, for me personally, my thing is just the growth that I've had as a person through some of the darkest times.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think those are things that I never expected to happen. Those are things that I never expected to go through as an entrepreneur or even as a man, right? And I'm very fortunate to have gone through some of the darkest times in my life, because without those, I would not be who I am today, and I would not be where I am today. I also appreciate the fact that self-improvement has been my number one focus. Is how can I get better every day? I still do things that I make mistakes on, or that, even fighting with my family recently, we've had a couple issues, and I've now been able to have like real intimate conversations that are hard, and that everybody's being emotional and everybody's spilling how they feel, but I want to make sure I'm willing to actually listen to what somebody says. And that's what I work on every day, is not letting the emotions get the best of me in business and as a person, and personal relationships as well, friendships, all that stuff. So that's kind of where I'm trying to draw it. Is there something in there that you've done or gone through that you're like, man, this made me so different than I thought?
Honestly, just the whole experience of Posh. Like it sounds like it's just so simple, but that's my reminder. Like every day I wake up and I'm like, but I have Posh. And like, as like I said, like I spend a lot of my day alone, whether it be in the showroom or whether it be delivering or whether it be working, or whether it be doing my morning routine. Like I enjoy spending that time alone. I think I've gotten comfortable with myself. And back to like the personal growth thing, resilience, strength, like these are things that I'm always developing, but I think that I'm more developed than many in those areas because of what I've gone through, whether that be in business again or just personal life and like growing up and things like that. It's just, I'm very grateful for Posh. It's the consistency. It's something that I built for myself. Like nobody can take that away from me. And it's just, that's my reminder every day, truly. And just to know that I have, it's not going to go away tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I can always check in with these customers that have been friends, and I'll invite them to my wedding. Like, you know what I mean? They've become so close to me, and I wouldn't be where I am without them. And I think being as transparent about all of that and like how appreciative I am of them has been a game changer too. And then I get that same energy back. I get messages just randomly on a Tuesday and somebody's like, you know, I just really appreciate you putting yourself out there and being your most authentic self. It encourages me to do the same thing. Yeah. And that's the why, you know, being able to do that for people. And yeah, I'm uncomfortable sometimes and people look at me and they're like, oh, like you did that podcast, you weren't nervous? And I'm like, you didn't know that I was like calling all my friends on the way here. Like I'm freaking out. Like they don't see that and they don't see what I post on social media. They just, or they see what I post on social media. They see me like talking and being so like bubbly, this personality, but you know, it takes a lot to get there. It takes those moments alone to get there. So checking in with yourself. And I think definitely the same thing, like you said, like I'm always trying to be better than I was yesterday. Like every day I'm trying to improve. I'm going to look back at this podcast and be like, you know, what could I have done better? And what am I going to do better on the next one? And just having that fearlessness, but also being able to reflect back and be like, okay, but reality is you can always improve.
Yeah. What would you know, someone comes up to you and, hey, love what you're doing. I had a text actually today, which the kid didn't get back to me, but I spoke at Thomas Jefferson High School, and this younger kid asked me, hey, you spoke in my class. I don't want to go to college. I want to start a business and do this. Would you make time for me? I was like, absolutely. Let's talk. I'll give you my perspective. I don't want to talk you out of going to college. So, if you don't want to go, that's your decision, but I'll give you my thoughts on, and I'll try to help you where I can. Because he wants to learn and he wants to grow, and having someone like that reach out was the coolest thing ever.
For sure.
People are going to reach out to you. People have reached out to you, right? What would you tell them? What's your, what's the best thing that you could say that someone says, hey, I want to do this. What do you recommend? From an overall, just like first thought from you.
It's tough because I want to know if they have it in them. Yeah. Like I would ask them a question right back. Like I don't have an answer. I'd ask a question and I would say, do you really think you have it in you? And are you ready to work? Because you have to do like, even just, reaching out and asking for a meetup, easy, it's easy for them, not as easy for you to make time. But, right. It's one of those things like, all right, if you're serious about it, like you better get your ass online. You better like look this stuff up, know what you want to do. Don't just know that you want to be your own boss. Because I think we're running into that a lot with social media and people thinking like, oh, I'm my own boss because I am a sales rep for this company. Like, no, you're not. You work for this company. You're a sales rep. Like, you're not, like I've had people come up to me and they're like, yeah, like you and I, we're small business owners, like we get each other. And I'm like, you're not though. Like there's a difference, big one. So I would answer that with a question and say, are you really ready for this? What do you want to do? And do you just want to have the freedom? Like, why are you doing it? I would have a lot of questions.
No, and
I'd have an answer.
I respect that and understand that as well. And that's something that I have a couple of tests and questions in mind that I already or always fire off to somebody when they, because if I'm going to take an hour out of my time, an hour is to me a lot of value. So if you're asking me how do you start an LLC, it's probably the wrong person to talk to. Right. Because if you don't know that, I'm not interested in helping you. No disrespect. Google. Right. So,
exactly.
But no, I appreciate you being on. This is, like I said, I've been following you for a couple years now, and it's really cool to see. And I love people that just want to be better. I love people that just want to win, and also that just want to put effort into things. And I think that's something that we live in a world where I think it's still a pretty victim mentality world, unfortunately, or a handout type of world, which is actually great for entrepreneurial minded people, because I think there's just a lot more opportunity out there now. The internet, the technology that's involved, the massive companies that are paving the way for other people to kind of follow in their footsteps and learn what they're doing, but make a little bit of a different shadow behind what they're doing, which makes it exciting. So I think anybody that's out there that's an entrepreneur that's trying to get something done, that's trying to start, every person that I've had on here, it's the same consistent message. It's the customer service, it's the experience, it's the product, it's the never quit. Hey, it's also, we've all been through shit.
Right.
Like we've all been through something. It doesn't matter how big of a company, how small of a company, what role you have in the company, you are going to end up going through things that are going to say, hey, why am I doing this? And that's when you just put your nose down and you just work even harder and you keep on going. And you have to trust yourself more than anything. Right. When you trust yourself more than anything, you have to be calculated, you have to be strategic, and you have to also be able to take harsh criticism or step back and analyze yourself, which is really difficult. Be critical of yourself. Right. And that's such a key. So where can everybody find you? I want to make sure this is beneficial for you as well. We're going to have all the information in the show notes. I'll post on social media and do that stuff. But you have a cool social media presence. So where can everybody kind of find you?
So you can find me at Posh Local on Instagram. And I believe the Facebook is linked with that.
That's always the tough one.
Probably
to remember.
I think it's Posh Local PGH if it's not just Posh Local, and then the website poshlocalpgh.com.
Awesome. Well, I genuinely appreciate you coming on and telling your story, and I'm going to check in with you in a couple months and see what's going on, and maybe there's some time or some opportunity where we can do a collaboration of some sort. I love working with other hungry entrepreneurs. That's what makes this fun. So appreciate you being on. Thank you all for listening and paying on attention to what we're doing on the Common Threads. It's been really incredible. We have some more really fun, unique guests coming up over the next couple weeks and months, and we appreciate all the support. It's been great. We're very, very thankful that we started this, and thank you again for being on here.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
All right. We'll talk to you guys next week. Have a good day.